Namaste, beautiful. Welcome to Yoga is the Answer. Today the question is, how can I increase my energy and begin to live my life more fully? And this lesson in Manipura Chakra, our third chakra, is the beginning of the answer. Today I will talk about in words what we will put into practice later in the week with one beginner Hatha yoga class and one intermediate to advanced multi-style yoga class. So our Manipura, our third chakra, our solar plexus, is located kind of in the middle of the spine behind where the navel is. So that means that the front of the body, the ketchum that is associated with it, is the navel, the solar plexus, right? So our Manipura is thought of as being the sun of our body. It translates to the city of jewels, but I kind of like those two things. I can't really say in words why, but like that means the same thing to me. And I guess it does mean the same thing because that is both are true, right? And so it's the sun of our body. It's like the way that the sun provides energy to all the planets in the solar system. Our Manipura is providing energy through prana to all of the parts of the body. Yeah, so that's why if we have not awakened Manipura, then oftentimes we can be more tired and have less energy. And then the awakening of Manipura makes us more energized and able to more fully live our lives. Yeah. So I might have briefly touched on this in the past lectures, but I want to talk about the gunas. So the gunas there are three of them, which in Indian philosophy we think of as being the three things that make up all of nature. And so we have the tamas, which are things that are associated with ignorance and lethargy. Lethargy or lethargy? Anyway. I was like, what is that? Okay, I'm just going to move on. Okay, and the rajas, you know what I mean. The rajas, which are more like with movement and fire and passion. And then above that, we have sattva. And so sattva is like purity, knowledge. So it goes in that order, right? And so that's also the order of our chakras. Yeah, and so the lower two are associated with this tamasic energy, with that kind of lower vibrational lethargy, depression, ignorance. And then when we get to Manipura, then it's the rajas, right? It's that fire, that passion. Yeah. So our animal is the ram. Yeah, so we think of the ram as being like, having all this energy and it's like all this force. So that's the animal that represents the Manipura. And then the Bija mantra is Ram. So easy to remember those two together because they are the same letters. Yeah. So then we use our element is Agni, it's fire. And so we use the Agni Mudra. So we think of the thumb as being the fire element and the ring finger as being the earth element. So we put the earth element down and then we're like putting it on fire. So we push the fire over it. So that's how you can kind of remember it. So we talked about in the Muladhara lesson that the mudra is our ring finger and our thumb touching each other. So then we're I think of it as like if it's touching it, then the fire is like accentuating the thing. So it's accentuating this earth element. But then when it's covering it, it's burning it. Yeah. So we're using this mudra and we chant Ram. And like I talked about before, we try and feel in that region. You try and be able to chant at a tone in which we can be feeling the vibration in this area. So I will demonstrate. So if you've watched the other ones and you notice that I go up, right, in pitch. Personally, when I am chanting the mantras, I find that it's helpful that way to really feel like I'm targeting the area. Yeah. So when we are doing things like sitting and chanting this mantra, then it can be helping us to meditate, right, on the area. So meditation is basically the point at which we become one with an object of concentration, such that we then gain all of the knowledge about that thing. Yeah, and so when we are becoming one with Manipura, it's said that then we gain all of this knowledge about all of the physical systems of the body. So the sense that is associated with Manipura is sight, and the part of the body, the knowledge part of the body is the eyes, and then the action part of the body is the feet. So we can think about it that when we're awakening this chakra, it makes us want to move, right? We need our feet to move, and then we're using our eyes to like look where we're going. Yeah. So when we awaken this area, basically what's happening is that we are getting stronger willed. Yeah, so before we're like unmotivated, and then we get to this awakening here, and then we find that motivation and we find like this willpower. Yeah. So how do we do that? So it said in Tantra that, so we have these different Vayus, these different pranas that I have talked about in the past. So the one that is associated with our Manipura is the Samana, which is basically what controls everything within the digestive system. It controls what's in the digestive system and kind of spreading the essence of the food to the body. Yeah. But so then, the ones that are important for the awakening of the chakra are our prana and our apana. So I talked about apana in the previous ones because apana is the vayu that is associated with our swadhisthana and our muladhara. So apana is like the waist. And so apana is thought of to be moving from our muladhara chakra to our manipura. And then our prana, so the prana is like the main one, this what we call like our vital life energy, is moving from manipura up to the throat. Okay, so when we breathe, then as we're inhaling, then that energy, both the apana and the prana, are moving upwards naturally. And then when we exhale, then they're moving down. So to awaken Manipura, what we want to do is make them so that they are moving in opposite directions so that they can meet here and create this fire, create this force that then pushes to the chakra and awakens it. So the way that we do that is through various kriyas and pranayama, breathing techniques, so that we can switch the direction of the apana. So then the prana is still moving the way that it naturally moves. So we inhale, it moves up, we exhale, it moves down. And through these techniques, some of which I will be including in these classes, we change the direction of the apana so that when we are inhaling, it's moving down, and then when we exhale, it's moving up. So then on the exhale, then the prana is moving down, the apana is moving up, and they meet here in the middle, and bam, we open Manipura. Yeah, I know, it seems a little bit like, okay, yeah, sure. If it seems like, yeah, sure, then you probably haven't opened your Manipura. If the things that I am saying are like making sense to you, then maybe you have already gotten there, or maybe you're in the process of getting through it. The reason for that being, at the point that we are awakening Manipura, basically our entire perspective on life changes. Because when we are in these lower chakras, then we're only able to experience life on like the human plane. And then when we get to Manipura, it's when we start to get glimpses of the spiritual plane, like the heavenly plane. Yeah. And so when we reach there and we can see that, then it changes our entire life. So when we're still stuck in the lower chakras, then we're very focused on the difficult stuff. Like we have these biases and we have this certain ways of thinking about the world that are quite negative. We associate negativity with a lot of things. And then once we can see beyond the physical plane, then we see the beauty in everything. And that affects the way that we just go about every single thing in our life. So it's easy to see, like once you gain this understanding, you can see where somebody is as far as the awakening or sleeping of their Manipura based on their life outlook. So if someone is like thinking that the world is awful, no awakening of Manipura. If somebody is seeing the world as amazing, most likely awakening of Manipura. Yeah. So it's thought that basically it's like someone who is having the desire to go deeper into practices of yoga or any kind of spirituality, who like has that urge already, is probably at this level. Someone who doesn't have that urge and is just like, going about their life and on the physical plane, not even like having any idea that there is anything more, okay, they're probably not there, right? Okay, so I do want to share with you this idea that is written in yogic scriptures that is probably the most out there of everything that I have talked about so far. So they have this teaching that at the bindu, which is like our pineal gland, there is this nectar that is secreted from the moon. And then that nectar drops down into our Manipura, where it is consumed by the sun. and that this process is the reason for aging and disease and death, and that it is possible for one to reverse this, again, through kriyas, through various yogic techniques. They're able to send the nectar back up from Manipura to Agya, or to the Bindu, and then theoretically they can cheat death, essentially. It's definitely pretty out there. I'm not saying that I don't believe in it. I do believe in it. As a concept, I think it's probably possible. I, for one, don't want to cheat death. So at this point in my journey, I'm not going to try to achieve this. But who knows? Maybe at some point in time, I will. So I don't really know why I decided to include that in this little discussion, because it is such a, it's like almost a myth to us in 2025. But I guess the reason for including it is, the reason for including it is just to show how much belief there is, or belief there was from the beginning, in the power of yoga by the earliest practitioners of yoga. And that they believed that yoga was the answer to even transcending death in the physical body. Not just like in samsara, like, okay, the soul lives on forever, but like literally reverse aging. So maybe we're not there anymore. Maybe we will get there again one day. I don't know. But the constant is that there are still those of us who are devoted to the practice, who believe that it is a very powerful practice, even if we're not using it to reverse aging to that degree. Maybe we're using it a little bit to reverse aging. But yeah, anyway, now I'm just rambling again as usual. Another very important thing I almost forgot to share with you is that it's said that once one awakens Manipura, the Kundalini Shakti does not return back to the lower chakras. So when we're going through the process of awakening Muladhara and Swadhisthana, then in a lot of people, it is something that keeps happening. And then finally, when the Manipura is awakened, then that becomes like the new seat of this Kundalini Shakti, which is the force that is moving up and that is seated in whichever chakra we're at the level of opening. So that's an important thing to know. I think if you were able to wrap your mind around that concept, that when we're in the lower ones, maybe we go from Muladhara, we awaken, we go to Swadhisthana, and then we have some kind of thing happen in our life, it drops back down, and then the other way around, and then the next one, maybe we awaken Swadhisthana and we're moving out to Manipura, and then something happens and comes back down. Once we get here, that is done happening. We're here. We don't have to go back to awakening Muladhara or Swadhisthana again. This is the new seat of Kundalini, and then we can work from here up and get to the higher planes and do the more spiritual work. Okay. So if you've gotten this far, you're still listening to my rambling, then drop a yellow heart in the comments, and I look forward to putting these teachings into practice with you and helping you to feel more energized and to be able to live your life more fully through the practices that we will do this week. I will see you there with so much love. Namaste.